Ah, God, that's disappointing. Ugh, man, wanted that one so bad for Julius Randle. Okay, the Knicks lost tonight to the Minnesota Timberwolves, 140-134, and I would, I'd love to be able to sit here and say that's not the story. It is part of the story. It is part of the story because the Knicks are still very much in a race for the playoffs, race for playoff positioning. They have not secured anything yet. They now have to go down to Florida for what will be a tough back-to-back, including obviously Wednesday night against the Heat, who are chasing them. So the game does matter. In no uncertain terms, the fact that they lost this game, it matters. That said, I mean, I've been watching this team since, for 30 years now. I could officially say that I've been watching this team for 30 years because it's 2023. So I don't know. And I did watch Melo's 62. Remember that night? Not well, but I do remember it. I've watched some other really, really special games for the Knicks. I don't know that I've ever seen anything like what we saw tonight from Julius Randle, and specifically in the third quarter, because so obviously Julius Randle ended up 57 points, which ties the third highest scoring game in Knick history. Tied Richie Guerin, who did it way back in December of 1959. And since 1959, the only two men to score more points in a game wearing a Knick uniform were Bernard King, who scored 60, of course, famously on Christmas Day in 1984, and the aforementioned Carmelo Anthony game in January of 2014. That's it. 76-year history of the franchise. A lot of really great players have come through, and only two of them ever scored more than Julius Randle tonight. And it started off quietly enough where I mean, what a wild game. A wild game that featured just some of the absolute best shot making from the entire Minnesota Timberwolves team, especially Taurean Prince, who saved his best, most meaningful for last. Went 8 of 8 from three tonight. One off the NBA record for most threes without a miss. Insane for a guy that his previous season high was 17 points. One of those nights. Insane shot making from the Wolves right out of the gate. They were shooting 75% from the field and from deep through like late in the second quarter. And then it's finally started to taper off. But like, because the shot making for the Wolves was so impressive, I mean, the Knicks were making a lot of shots too, just not quite as many as the Wolves. And like subtly in the first quarter, Julius Randle was the one who was making the most shots for the Knicks. And then even more quiet in the second, he kept adding to it. And Breen said it like right before the half. He's like, Julius Randle has 26 points. And we were all watching on playback and we were all like, what? Julius Randle has 26 points? What? And I made an offhanded comment at the time. I'm like, man, he might need to go for 50 tonight if they're going to win this game. And then what he came out and did in that third quarter, 26 points, New York Knicks record, broke the previous record by Carmelo Anthony, nearly outscored the Timberwolves by himself. Timberwolves scored 30 in the quarter. Randle had 26. Knicks had 38. And you felt like, okay, Randle is going out because he was completely and totally gassed. You felt like Randle's going out, but the bench is coming in. The bench has put the Knicks, done a good job, obviously, since Josh Hart got here especially. Done a great job putting the starters in a good position down the stretch. And like, the bench was good, not great. When they came in, they could never get that extra little something, that extra little push. The Wolves always had a shot to keep, I don't think the lead ever got over 5. I think the lead got to 5 a few times and never got over 5. All that being said, Jalen Brunson made a shot so it was tied. It was 125, 124, and then Randle hit a shot, and then Brunson hit a shot, and it was 129, 124 with 4:41 left to go. And at that point, you felt pretty good. And from that point forward, the Knicks got 2 buckets. they got Brunson made a 16-foot two-pointer after the Wolves had come back and tied the game to make it 131-129. And then it was the Randall three-point play after the steal late, which, the game wasn't over. Obviously, it made a 3-point game with more than 24 seconds to go. So, like, the game, it gave new life to the game that felt like it was over because after the Conley steal. But, like, for all intents and purposes, for me, this game, I'm looking at it and saying the Knicks managed to score one basket at home in the last, for a stretch of 4.5 minutes down the stretch of a close game. And it's just weird because this has been a team that has turned into a really good clutch team after they were just an awful clutch team. And like, you did not want them anywhere near a game that could potentially become close down the stretch. And we felt they kind of got over that. Obviously, Denver, they made all the big plays down the stretch versus Denver on both ends of the floor. And tonight, Benji said it on playback. I think it was during the fourth quarter. They were just, it was like they were just like jumpy. They were very jumpy. They were over aggressive in terms of closeouts and help. And it was resulting in, the Wolves like making passes, lead into good shots, good easy shots, or good threes, and then just some silly stuff like quickly fouling Conley for a three or on a 3-point attempt and giving up 3 free throws that ended up giving the Wolves a lead they wouldn't relinquish there in the fourth quarter. Bunch of transition opportunities that the Knicks just couldn't finish. Had good opportunities there. Had 9 turnovers in the first half. That didn't help anything. And like, look, they gave up 140 points tonight, so I can't really sit here and be like, well, the defense, this was more shot making than terrible defense. You give up 140 points. 140 is 140. And it's unfortunate because, it's not like they came out and they didn't care on the defensive end, but we know what this Knicks team looks like when they are playing like their lives depends on it. Like their lives depend on it on defense, and they did not come out like that. And look, this was kind of a repeat of the Charlotte game, maybe a little bit different because that was off the 9-game winning streak, and you felt like maybe that was an emotional come down, and they were tired in that game, and also they didn't have Jalen Brunson that game. That's the big difference here. They had Jalen Brunson. This is the first loss with where Jalen Brunson has played the entire game because he went out of the Kings game, and Josh Hart has been on the team. His first loss. So it's been, over a month. So like, this isn't a loss to go crazy about. Again, the Wolves came out and their shot making was insane. And you want to be like, well, Brunson or Randall kind of equalized that because he had insane shot making as well. And he did for sure. That said, the Wolves 61% overall, 58 from deep, a little bit better than we ended up, 56 and 50. The free throw line equalized it. But other than Randall, you look around and it's like Brunson had an okay game, 9 of 18, 23 points, not his best. Quickly had an open shot there down the stretch. He was only 2 of 7 from deep, 6 of 16 overall. Not a great quickly game offensively. Josh Hart was 5 for 7, but only took, 7 shots, and he's not really shooting it unless it's in transition, which is kind of his one, piece of kryptonite. And RJ only 8 shots in this game. Grimes only 1 shot in this game. RJ 27 minutes, Grimes 21 minutes. Was there an argument to play Grimes maybe a little bit more? Was there an argument to play RJ a little bit more? I don't know. I thought Quickly was the better. You had to keep Hart in there. And I thought Quickly was the best of those 3 down the stretch, and he was not good down the stretch. So it was a decision that backfired and turned out to not be great. Gobert actually absolutely made a big difference for them. The Knicks were afraid to take a shot anywhere near the paint coming down the stretch, and it mattered because, like, that's what the Knicks want to do down the stretch of games. They want to take shots in and around the paint, even if it's a short mid-ranger. And Gobert just doesn't let you do that, and it took the Knicks out of their comfort zone in a big way. That's the thing with that closing lineup. Other than Quickly, you don't have guys who really want to take threes. Brunson wants to operate inside. Randall and Quickly missed the 3 that he had, I think, or maybe multiple threes. So tough loss. It's not a loss I'm going to go crazy about. It's just unfortunate. It's disappointing because, again, that Julius performance was that third quarter in particular. Again, I'm watching basketball for 30 years. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that third quarter. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. And now we move on to Miami in what is a game that becomes a little bit more interesting all of a sudden. It's not a must win, but you'd feel, boy, would it be a nice comeback to come back and get that win? We'll see. We have a lot of time to think about that. Okay, let's do what should we do? Personal injury report presented by our friends at Weiss and Rosenblum. Make sure if you have a personal injury inquiry, call Weiss and Rosenblum today at 212-366-6100. Again, Weiss and Rosenblum, personal injury attorneys, 212-366-6100, or visit them at weissandrosenblum.com for more information. Call them up, free consultation. If they take the case, they do not get paid unless you do. Prior results don't guarantee future outcomes, but if you think you might have a case, give them a call. No injuries to report other than Anthony Edwards was not in there for the Wolves. Although, I mean, I don't know what they lost because you look at everybody else in their starting lineup. I mean, Prince obviously had the game that he had, but Jaden McDaniels kind of a quiet 18 points, but still 18 points on 12 shots. Kyle Anderson was really good, I thought, tonight. Gobert, 7-9, 16. Great game from him. Big impact on the defensive end. And then Mike Conley. You want to talk about a guy with all the crazy stat lines. Mike Conley, 24 points on 11 shots. How about that? And 11 assists to boot. Amazing game from Mike Conley. And I should know, before we go to moment of the game, Brunson really struggled containing him. And there have been some games along the way where you really notice Brunson's limitations defensively, and tonight was absolutely at or near the top of that list because they could not contain penetration, and Brunson getting into the teeth of the defense. Knicks were, again, helping left and right, and who's cutting in or who's, it's Gobert, it's a pass, it's something. It was always something. 140 points. 140 points, a lot of points. Okay, you do moment of the game. I mean, I don't know. Andrew, what are we doing for moment of the third quarter? I don't know.
So I have three candidates. They're
Great.
all Julius Randle. So there's the dunk in the first half that made us all kind of perk up that he was feeling it tonight. There was the three-pointer that tied the game, finally got the Knicks tied in the third quarter. Believe it made it 106-106. I'll look up the exact score.
That is a third quarter score.
Third quarter score. It also gave him 49, 50, and 51 points. So we get the three that puts him over 50. And then it's going to go down as a forgotten play, but poking the ball out of 101. Poking the ball out of Conley's hands to give the Knicks one more shot so it's the steal, the forced turnover, followed by the and one that cut it to 3 with 40 seconds left. So
I like those three.
Those three. Can I read you a stat, John?
Please, because I have to blow my nose.
Because it's why this game I'm struggling so much with. Like, yes, they gave up a ton of points. Yes, they were targeted on defense. They lost to the Timberwolves without Ant or Karl Anthony Towns. Yeah. Taurean Prince just had the second most efficient game in NBA history. He was 12 of 13 tonight and 8 of 8 points. And 8 of 8 from 3. He is the only other player to get 35 points on a higher true shooting is Davis Bertans in 2021.
Wow.
And Prince is the first ever to have at least a 110% true shooting with at least 5 threes that without missing. And he went 8 for 8. Like, we saw something crazy with Julius tonight. There's a part of me that wants to just be like, we kind of saw something crazy on the other side.
Yeah, no, between him and Connolly. I mean, I know Connolly's, again, efficiency numbers weren't at Prince levels because, I mean, nobody could do that. One person's done it in NBA history. But this is another one where it's like, sorry, what were you going to say?
Well, do you remember the Naz Reid skyhook in the middle of the second quarter?
There was so many. That's why it's like, there is a part of me that just wants to, like, look at the score and be like, the NBA in 2023.
Mhm.
That's what it is. You're going to see stuff like this happen. Yeah, you're going to see stuff like this. But it's just funny hearing you say that the second most efficient game in NBA history. It's like the Knicks this season, for as amazing as the season has been, as for as much as they are arguably, along with the Kings, the feel-good story of the year, it just chalked this up to another one of those. How did this happen? This happened to the Knicks. Like,
Mhm.
how could 8 for 8, 35 points on 13 shots happen to the Knicks?
It does seem a little more random. Like when Luka did it, it seemed like they were
That's
giving
Luka.
him like it's Luka. So you're just like, okay,
Yeah.
this is at least all right. Like, is he ever gonna have this game? Like we looked up his stats in the first quarter when he had 20 points, and he hadn't his season high was 19 going into tonight. So
17, I thought.
I had 19 on his basketball.
Whatever. It
on
was
his
less
game
than
log.
20.
The point being, this was his first 20-point game of the season, and he made history. So it took a historic performance to wipe out the Randall individual historic performance.
Yeah, it took a historic performance to wipe out a historic performance. The difference is, I guess, you figure a guy like Julius Randle is gonna have he's the more likely of the two to have a game like this in him.
This is me coping because I'm trying to process the fact that the Knicks were not able to pull out this win. Look, they kind of stayed away. There's going to be some comments coming up that they didn't really feature Randall. Randall had like 2 shot attempts or 3 shot attempts. I thought he looked kind of cooked.
I think
like the rebound he didn't get at the end. I'm looking at him like he's got no legs whatsoever. There's a shot in the third quarter. I think it was towards the end of the third quarter when he was having the performance he was having.
Yep.
And they're going to a TV timeout, and you just see him hunched over, hands on his knees, and it's like he's exhausted.
I've never seen that look on his face, and I'll say it right now, I thought the decision to continue to run as they do, run the offense through Brunson down the stretch, I thought it was the right decision. And look, they were trying to take away Brunson. Brunson had he had the shot with under 5 to go to give them a 5-point lead. He had and then Julius, it was not a great shot and it was like the end of the clock shot. It was a grenade. He missed when it was 129-26. Ended up being a shot clock turnover because it didn't even hit the rim. Possession after that, it was a good quickly look, just missed. After that, Josh Hart, great look in transition. First time he's missed one of those all year. It's like these freaky things. And then after that, Jalen Brunson, the next time he shot the ball, he made it. So Jalen Brunson, 2 for 2 so far, under 5 minutes. And then the last shot that he took was he missed the driving floater with 2:04 to go.
Yeah.
And then it was turnovers and just because they were, that's all it was. All right. Shall we?
Let's do it.
Okay. Man. Well, this would have been so much more fun if they'd won that. Okay. Jesse M. Starts us off. IQ fouling 2 3-point shooters ruined the momentum. Yeah, the one with Connolly with 2:17 left to give the Wolves the lead was certainly the one that will stand out. But the earlier one that you're talking about, and I forget when it was I think it was in the end of the third quarter. Because that was Nickeil Alexander-Walker. The reason that made that one almost worse is Nickeil Alexander-Walker is he's not the guy that you should be even coming close to fouling on that situation. But again, there were lots of those moments, even in the first half. We go back to the first half when the Wolves they were able to keep that 15-point cushion throughout the entire first half. There were a couple little moments in the first half where the Knicks, whether it was sloppiness or not being able to convert transition opportunities, or all these little moments add up where you're like, are we going to come back? Is that going to come back to bite us? Is that going to come back to bite us? And you have enough of those, even against a team that's missing their best player, it comes back to bite you. Thanks, Jesse. Soggy Bones. What's going on, Soggy Bones? How are you, man? I'm not a Julius stan at all, but why did they ignore him in the fourth? Felt like he barely had it all quarter. We obviously addressed this already. Also, the size the Wolves have at guard posed a lot of problems for Quickley and Brunson. I really hope that doesn't get exploited again. That's the other. I should have said that. Bad job by me. We were saying it on the playback. You noticed it. I noticed it on a couple of possessions. I think on the fourth was the first time I noticed it when they might have been in the third. I'm pretty sure the fourth, though. When Brunson was on Jaden McDaniels, and it was like, it wasn't on a switch or anything. Like that was the best. That was like the best place that they decided, like, oh, this is where we're going to hide Brunson, because you didn't want Brunson on Connolly. And so you put quickly on Connolly, and then, but all around you had all these, you wanted Randall on the least taxing assignment. So you had Randall on Kyle Anderson, and then they ended up taking Anderson out and putting, I think it was Noel in, which to try to put a little bit more offensive pressure to maybe force Julius and someone, and to, like, there were just not a lot of great options as far as, because they bring a ton of size. And when they're hitting threes, like they obviously did tonight, I mean, what, it's tough. They hit, it's, my God, it seems like so many more. They had 14 threes, but they were 14 to 24. Seems like they had 24 threes. Thanks, Soggy Buns. Appreciate it, man. Jesse M. Torian effing Prince. Who? Torian Prince is a good player. Torian Prince, former Walt Perrin draft pick that was immediately traded to the Atlanta Hawks. I think they traded him after the pick was made. Regardless, he was the 12th pick in the draft. That dude was like, he got, he's gotten paid all along his NBA career. He's a guy who could score, but I mean, Jesus. Not like this. Thanks, Jesse. Colin Reardon, what's going on, Colin? I like Tibbs a lot, but awful game by him. McBride needed minutes. Mitch needed to close. IQ was fouling at bad moments. Everyone getting beaten off the dribble. Shake my head. Okay, let me address these one by one. I actually brought up in the first half that I thought about McBride. This maybe was a McBride game. Just to, like, up the intensity level, try to be disruptive, And the one pushback on that I think is fair is, okay, so if you're going to McBride, then because you're probably going to McBride for RJ during those second unit minutes. And so then you got McBride, quickly, Hart, Obi, and then you're super small. You're super small against a big Wolves team. That said, I brought it up. I thought it was something. They didn't go to it, so whatever. Mitch needed to close. I didn't have a problem with that. I thought Hartenstein was the better of the two players tonight. I think he's been the better of the two players for the past few weeks. But obviously Mitch had a really good game against Denver, but I didn't think Mitch had it tonight. I didn't think Mitch was great tonight at all. And then as far as quickly, again, that's the one we talked about already. It's the glaring one. I thought having quickly close was the correct decision. I thought early in the fourth quarter was obviously the correct decision. I mean, there was a stretch there for quickly where he was really good, and then it just turned on him, in the fourth, and it went from a game that was like a pretty good quickly game to a bad quickly game. So I can't. I mean, I'm probably biased, but I'm not sure I'm putting this loss on Tibbs. But listen, at the same time, you give up 140 points, you can't beat a team that's missing Anthony Edwards. I mean, it's on everybody, including the coach. Juanon, what's going on, Juanon? What a waste of a phenomenal offensive night from Julius. On to the next one. The NBA needs a drug test that Jabroni Prince. He's drinking Mike's secret stuff tonight. The only explanation. That's you nailed it. That's why tonight's so hard. If you lose to the Wolves on a night when Prince is doing what he's doing and Connolly's having the night that he's having and the whole thing, it's like, all right, it's forgivable. It's game 70, whatever it is, it happens. It's the NBA in 2023. It happens. But just to waste that performance, it's heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking. A tragedy. I don't know if that was a name that was changed for tonight, but it's fitting regardless. McDaniels shoved off Jalen Brunson twice, garbage refereeing. Yeah, that was a missed call, and I would expect that in the last 2 minutes report, that one's going to come up. So that's when, after Julius got the steal and converted the N1 with Torian Prince, almost became the GOAT of the game, not capital GOAT, but lowercase, because he fouled Randall and allowed the N1. McDaniels took the shot and did push off Brunson. It was very clear that it was an offensive foul on Jaden McDaniels. At the same time, and I'm not about to kill Julius because, again, he was freaking gassed. Like, Randall had an opportunity for that rebound and just couldn't get to it. So even with the missed call, you still had the opportunity to grab the rebound. You didn't grab the rebound, and there it is. Keith, what's going on, Keith? How are you, man? Thank you as always. Shouts to Julius for the performance. Really wanted to win for him. Only against the Knicks does something like Prince happen. Only us. Shouts to KFS. Thank you, man. Yeah. This has been a season that we will never forget. Truly, 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 truly. I mean, how many just like ho-hum, boring wins or losses? I mean, I guess when they've been rolling, there have been some wins that have been like convincing wins that, they won going away. So I guess there has been a few of those, but even those have come during big win streaks which in and of themselves have been big deals and memorable. And then, but just like the losses, like, I mean, you go through the losses this season. How many have been just like losses that are like, okay, that happens. It's easy to take. Very few. Very few. My God. Thank you, Keith. Black Ice. What's going on, Black Ice? Randall was gassed. Letting the bench play a bit longer to give the starters a break could have made the difference. I think that's fair. It's funny, though. He didn't bring Randall in for offense. He didn't bring Randall back in for offense. He brought Randall back in because Obi missed the box out after someone missed a corner three. I think it was Naz Reid missed a corner three, and it was Obi's box out. Completely missed the box out. Totally missed the box out. And Randall came back in. And, like, I don't know, was Brunson gassed? I didn't think Brunson was gassed. Brunson had a lot of time to rest. I thought Brunson looked pretty fresh in this game. Quickly, I'm guessing Quickly played about 30 minutes. 28 minutes. So, I don't know. I don't think Quickly was gassed. Hart is never gassed. And Hardenstein, I didn't think Hardenstein was. It was Randall. And, like, again, it's tough because, I mean, just, do you pull Obi because of one missed box out? I mean, if you're Tibbs, you do. That's the shit that drives him crazy. So, I don't know. Was it the right decision? Was it the wrong decision? They lost the game, so you could say it was the wrong decision. Thanks, Black Guys. Drew P. IQ had no right to close as bad as Julius Randle was great. Man, really harsh Quickly stuff tonight. I mean, it is a little over the top for me. Again, it's I understand you go game by game, and I understand you treat each game as a unique piece of evidence. That said, there is, or what have we played now? 73 games? 72 games worth of evidence going into tonight that Emmanuel Quickly is a guy that you want on the floor in the last 5 minutes of a close game. Unequivocally, a guy you want on the floor in the last 5 minutes of a close game for a variety of reasons. So I'm going to keep pushing back on those comments because I mean, this guy's going to hopefully, hope tonight didn't hurt him too much, but might win the 6th Man of the Year award. That's how important and how valuable he's been. And I understand he didn't have a great close to this game, but to say that, it was egregious that he was on the floor, that's too much for me. Roger Fortune, what's going on, Roger? That hurt. Plenty of things to complain about, and hopefully it's a loss to learn from. On to the next one. Yeah. So I don't know, but to complain about, it's stuff to be annoyed by, which I don't know if that's a real distinction, but like I'm very annoyed right now. It sucks. I don't know that there's stuff that's gonna. I mean, thinking about Torian Prince is gonna keep me up. That's for sure. 8 for 8 from 3, unbelievable. Hannibal Miles, what's going on? Hannibal was at the game tonight. Oh well, I hope it was good for you that you got to see that performance. Glad to see Julius get a 50 spot. I wish they would have won as well. They just made everything, meaning the Wolves. Field goal percentage and 3-point percentage was above their free throw percentage. So unlikely. Yeah, and what did they shoot from the line? I felt like the Wolves shot. Well, they actually shot 75% from the line, so that's not quite true, but it felt like it was. Yeah, they made everything. Like you're just not going to see teams shoot like that often, but they did. And but yeah, Julius getting first Nick to have 50 since Melo in the 2013-14 season. So pretty cool. Dan Hidalgo, what's going on, Dan? Yes, the 8 for 8 from downtown Torian Prince game. I'd say I'm shocked, but somehow I'm not. Hashtag character building. I'm not shocked at all. That's what the season has done to us as Knicks fans. Between, again, we could go through them verbatim. You know, the Dallas game, the Bulls game, the Clipper game with the Batum shot that you just knew was going in. I'm sure there's a few others that I'm forgetting. But yeah, now you could add the Torian Prince game to this. And it's just like, I don't know how many wins we're going to end up with this season. I would imagine it's going to be in the high 40s. You know, but we're going to look back and we're going to be like, that should have been a 50-win season. You know, if the basketball gods had any, you know, any something. I can't know. I'm out of words after that game. Stevens Guillaume couldn't survive the Torian Curry game. Man, I hate trap games. Yeah, I don't know. Was this a trap game? I think a trap game to me is defined by a game where you come out and you feel like you're just better than the other team and you're going to win. And I think they certainly came out and they scored like a team that was like, oh, we're the better team and we're going to act like it, because they were, Knicks were hitting everything as well. Everything in like rational terms, not everything in like fake basketball universe terms, which is what the Wolves were hitting. But yeah, there was a level of intensity that just wasn't there. And also, like, and again, shout out to Benji, who was pointing this out in the moment. Like the decision to like go under screens on Mike Conley. Like, why? Like, why are you doing that? You know, from the first quarter. Like, there's no reason to do that. He's not the guy you go. I mean, Torian Prince is one thing. Torian Prince is going to go 8 for 8. You tip your cap. Why are you going under screens on Mike Conley? That's just like not smart. And that's like that was Quentin Grimes on several of those occasions. You know, and then they made an adjustment in the second quarter, but like the damage was done. The Wolves scored how many? 38 points in the first quarter, something crazy like that. Yeah, annoying. 42 in the first quarter. Excuse me. Jessica Elsner, what's going on, Jessica? How are you? Shout out to Julius for adding another record at the top of the list of Knicks scoring greats. He is among legends. Shake it off. On to Miami. Let's go Knicks. I hope they could shake this game off. I mean, it's been the one defining characteristic of this team all year. They shake off bad losses almost immediately. You know, I do think the hangover might be a little tough in Miami. The Heat have not necessarily played well of late, but like they are in these games down the stretch repeatedly. They are just in games every time you look up down the fourth quarter. And the last game I watched them, it was against the Bulls the other night. They ended up losing, but they were down 27 in that game at one point, 27 or 26. And that was a 3-point game midway through the fourth quarter. The Heat came all the way back, and they just didn't have what it took to close the gap. But like, that's gonna be a tough game. But yeah, in terms of the putting himself among the list of the Knicks scoring greats, He joins Carmelo Anthony, Hall of Famer, Bernard King, Hall of Famer, Richie Guerin, Hall of Famer, Allen Houston, not a Hall of Famer, but pretty good player, 2-time All-Star. Willis Reed, MVP, Hall of Famer. Jamal Crawford had 52, pretty good player. Bernard King again. Patrick Ewing got 50 twice. Yeah, 51 and then 50, Hall of Famer. Houston did it another time. Anthony did it another time. Richie Guerin did it another time. So, like, yeah, he puts himself on a list with a bunch of Hall of Famers and All-Stars, in terms of Allen Houston. Jamal Crawford never made an All-Star team, but Jamal Crawford was pretty good. Jamal Crawford could score. So, yeah. Thanks, Jessica. Stevens Guillaume with another one. I just realized when a Knick is having a career game, we rarely win those games. Man, that's annoying. Yeah, it is annoying. It is annoying. I don't have anything else to add. It is annoying, and you felt it coming tonight too. Oh God. Frank Miranda, what's going on, Frank? How are you? What's up, Mac? It's your boy Frank from Patreon. Tonight was further evidence why this team should not get the 4th seed. They lack intensity and focus at home and are lackadaisical on the defensive end. 5th seed. Hashtag 5th seed. I've accepted the fact that they are getting the 5th seed. I accepted the fact that they're getting the 5th seed for a little while now. The Cleveland Cavaliers have the easiest schedule down the stretch. So that is notable. I believe the Cavs also play the Nets twice, and the 5th seed is the goal, right? We want the 5th seed for sure, 100% want the 5th seed. There is still a small part of me that's just like make the playoffs, although I think that part is kind of fading with how well they played. I think that part of me faded after the Denver win, actually. After the Denver win, I'm like, all right, let's just charge. And the 5th seed is right there for us. We should be able to get the 5th seed. Let's get the freaking 5th seed. And then now this game, I'm like, and again, I still fear they have to win one of those Miami games. They have to win one of those Miami games because right now you're 2 up on. Are you 2 up on Brooklyn? Yeah, you're 2 up on Brooklyn. You're 3 up on Miami. But you're 3 up on Miami, but if you lose both of those Miami games, then you're only 1 up on Miami. And really, it's tighter than that because Miami's going to win their division in all likelihood. So because even though they're not in the same division, if you finish in a tie with the Heat, then Miami has the tiebreaker. So you need to finish 1 game ahead of the Heat. So if you're the Knicks and you lose both of the Miami games, you are essentially tied. You have to at that point finish with the same record as the Heat in the remaining games or a better record than the Heat in the remaining games. And can the Knicks do that? Should the Knicks be able to do that? Yeah, absolutely they can do that, and absolutely they should be able to do that. But again, just looking in the immediate future, the Orlando game the night after Miami, win or lose in Miami, that's going to be a tough game on a back-to-back. I know it's the same state. I know it's not a long trip, but it's still a back-to-back on the road. So, I'm not saying this Miami game is a must-win game, but you got to win one of those two. And then after that, other than the other Miami game, the only game that should be really hard is at Cleveland. The rest of the games, Rockets, Wizards, 2 against the Pacers, Pelicans, Pelicans will be fighting. Pacers might still be fighting. Wizards might still be fighting, although they've kind of fallen out of it, so maybe they'll be tanking by then. I don't know. You would have said same thing after the freaking Hornets game. You would have liked to get this one. Anyway. Danny Gardner, what's going on, Danny? How are you, man? IQ had about as bad of a 4th quarter as anyone is capable of. No disagreement there. JB abused defensively all night. Agree. Can't lose that game up 5 with 3 minutes left. Totally. Incredibly frustrating loss. No excuse for that. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, Danny, thank you. And you usually have a way of nailing these things and sorting through all the noise. And again, with all due respect to you, Frank, who I think you raised a good point about the fact that maybe at home they don't always play with that same intensity. if you're up 5 at home with 3 minutes to go against a team that's missing their best player, maybe their 2 best players, you want to include Towns in that, like win the game. Like win the game. And they did not win the game. They could not defend and they could not find a good shot. Incredibly frustrating. Incredibly frustrating. Will Oliver, hat tip to Prince and Jules, rare undisciplined IQ on D. Yep, totally. Alex, what's going on, Alex? How are you, man? Hi, John. I had to get my head right after that game. Glad that Julius was mad at himself and wants to win so badly. So am I. You win and you learn. You win or you learn. Look at how teams are going to attack Brunson and adjust. Yeah, I think here's the issue. I think, yes, he needs to be better. But I don't know that there is an adjustment because they already try to hide Brunson on a less threatening player. Against certain teams, you're going to have a problem doing that. The problem, and this should not have been one of them, but again, the freaking Wolves were hitting everything. The problem is when you have a point guard who could penetrate like Connolly can penetrate and can shoot, by the way. And then you have a guy like Gobert who can still does what he does around the rim. That puts a lot of pressure on Mitch. Mitch needs to be that's their adjustment. Mitchell Robinson is their adjustment. And that's why Mitch needs to be really, really good. And that's why Mitch needs to be all defense caliber for them to survive games like this. And he was not that tonight. He just wasn't. It was not a great Mitch game. Or a great Hardenstein game for that matter, although I do think Hardenstein was better. So then you talk about, well, what's going to happen in the playoffs. And you do look at the Cavs and be like, okay, well, you're going to try to stick Connolly on or Brunson on whoever the small forward is. Sure. And to some extent you should be able to pull that off. And that's why the Cavs not having that small forward is a big deal. But yeah, that's basically all I got. Thanks, Alex. Appreciate you, man. Silk Sutton. What's going on, Silk? Hi, Josh Hart. Red locker room. We can't let up. Hi, Josh Hart. Red locker room. We can't let up. We weren't ready on defense. I'm assuming this is referencing a quote from Josh Hart after the game in which he said something along the lines of, we can't let up and we were not ready on defense. If that's what he said after the game, I completely agree with him. They were not ready on defense and they cannot let up. So, yeah. Sam Garcia's Madre. What's going up, Sam Garcia? What's going on, Sam Garcia's Madre? Wow. Thank you so much for the generous contribution. You are amazing. Part of the Garcia clan, obviously. Arguably the most important member of the Garcia clan. Yeah. Julius was him tonight, capital H, capital I, capital M. I wanted this W. I was born in Wisconsin and now a Queens gal. I hate Minnesota. F Minnesota. Hashtag F Minnesota. Oh, gosh. Well, I have no issue with hating Minnesota. I've been there once for a Twins game. It was fine. Queens is much better than Minnesota. And I wanted this win too. And thank you for the incredibly generous contribution. And shout out to the entire Garcia clan. You guys are awesome. Truly. Thank you. Haitian Ferg. What's going on, Haitian? How are you, man? No perimeter defense tonight. Nope. None. Zero. Wake up call. They might have looked ahead to Miami and slept on the Wolves. They'll get right for Miami. Tibbs will get them ready. I do think Tibbs will get them ready. Because they're always ready. To some extent, they're ready. But, not always. Most of the time, they're ready. I do want to say, in terms of no perimeter defense tonight, yes, I agree. I'm not going to defend them. I'm actually going to go the other way. I don't know when it was, but like, I don't know, midway through the season, at some point, our defense was ranked, whatever it was ranked, and I said probably on more than one occasion, like, oh, I'm not worried about defense. They'll be a top 10 defense by the end of the year. Like they'll figure it out. And there are now 9 games left in the year, and the Knicks defense after tonight is ranked 17th. It's tied with the 16th place Denver Nuggets, and 1.1 point per possession ahead of the Golden State Warriors. Now, can they still make a jump in the defensive rating rankings? Yeah, they're 113.8. The Clippers are at 113.2. So that's 0.6 points per 100 possessions behind the Clippers, and they're the 11th ranked defense in the league. And also context, like Mitch was out for a big portion of the season. Mitch hasn't played a ton of games, and like for as much as I don't think Mitch was great tonight, they are generally, and they have been generally, a better defense when Mitch is healthy, even though Hartenstein has stepped up. So, but like, everybody talks about Denver, like, oh, they're the 6th ranked defense. They're not not a serious team, to say nothing of like the Kings, who are, granted, they give up 115.8 points per 100 possessions. But the difference is that the Kings and the Nuggets are the top 2 scoring teams in the league. The Knicks are 5th, and obviously the Knicks can score a lot of points, and they're only 1 point about points per 100 possessions behind the 2nd place Nuggets. So they're right there. You still, if you want to consider yourself a serious team and you want to do some of the things that like we've started to talk ourselves into the Knicks possibly potentially being able to do in the playoffs, like, you got to defend. You just have to defend, and you have to defend better than they've defended, and it does start on the perimeter. I don't know. I don't know. It's tough. They don't have a lot of great, like, other than Mitch. And I thought, by the way, we haven't mentioned RJ Barrett's name once tonight, other than when I read off the fact that he didn't shoot a lot tonight and didn't play a ton of minutes. I thought RJ defensively tonight was pretty good. I thought that was the best part of his game, actually. He was not good in transition, and offensively he was fine. But I thought he was, other than, yeah, I thought you could actually argue he's the best defensive player in the starting 5 tonight. Which, like, again, if RJ Barrett's your best defender in the starting 5, your starting 5 probably didn't defend that well, and they did not. But neither did the whole team, although the bench was certainly better. Thanks, Haitian. Hannibal Miles, addendum for most of the game. I forget what the first part was.
So I'm looking at his comment from earlier, and it was at the game tonight. Glad to see Julius get a 50 spot. Wish we could have won. They just made everything. Field goal percentage and 3-point percentage was greater than their free throw percentage
For most of the game.
For most of the game. There you go.
Yeah,
thank you for the
accurate.
correction. Also, the Silk Sutton comment was, "Hi, John." It was, "Hi, John."
What did I read?
You read Josh Hart when it was John spelled with an H.
Oh, hi, yeah. John. So what was the comment again?
So he corrected it. It's coming up later, but
okay.
Hi, John. Josh Hart said that before the game he saw we weren't ready. So that's the comment that he made. So before the game, he saw we weren't ready. Well,
maybe that's the wake-up call.
Hopefully they come into Miami, a place have been rumored to have a culture down there that leads to winning, and you make sure you're ready for this one,
Yeah, I mean, look, I like the fact that I think they have a culture where Josh Hart, who has been here for a month, feels comfortable saying that. I think that's a good sign. Yeah, I think that's a good sign. And, like, I don't worry about the fact that, like, players on this team will, like, know how serious it is to defend. To actually win when it matters. I think they have a group of guys who know that and know what needs to be done. You could be off, right? You could be off, and you could be not ready for a game in late, March after, again, it's late in the season, the whole thing. But when push comes to shove, you got to turn it on. Kevin Danishevsky, what's going on, Kev? How are you? I want to throw something. Most frustrating loss of the year. Gonna chalk it up to Torian Prince. Knicks struggle against length that can target Jalen Brunson. No. I think I can watch basketball for another 30 years, and I will never, ever, ever experience a more frustrating loss than the Dallas loss. Is this in conversation for most frustrating loss other than the Dallas loss? It's the egregiousness of it has faded in time, mostly because it was like I think it was literally 5 days before the Dallas loss. But in the moment, the Bulls loss felt like how I felt after the Dallas game, where it was like I feel like I could watch basketball for another 20 years, and I'm not going to see a loss like that because of the 4 missed free throws in the last however many, in the last minute or whatever it was. That said, I think this could be in conversation with the Bulls loss, and I don't think that there's another one. The Clippers, the last play was frustrating. Of regulation, last play was frustrating, but and then there are other types of bad losses, like the first Dallas game. Like how do you grade the first Dallas game? Like that wasn't frustrating. That was like no one's gonna have jobs in a few weeks, or a few days. So yeah, but frustrating, sure. I could give you second on the frustrating list. I'm not giving you first. Sorry. Dom Cappuccini, what's going on, Dom? How are you, man? I should have listened to you, John. I don't know about that. I should have given the Timberwolves more shooting more credit. Damn, I really wanted to start this week off right. Depressing. Curious how they respond the rest of the week. I'm wrong because I thought the Wolves would come out and defend. I didn't think the Wolves would be able to score again because I watched the freaking end of that Bulls double overtime game that they played recently, and the Wolves their offense down the stretch, they got a couple of open Connolly threes or a couple of decent looks for Connolly from three, but like Connolly was not penetrating. They could not get the ball to Gobert. Their offense, the best offense was Jaden McDaniels, like creating. Like that was their best offense. And like Kyle Anderson trying to run, point essentially because they were stifling Connolly. I guess give the Bulls credit. The Bulls they rank as a better defensive team than us this year. So I guess sure, Bulls deserve some credit, but like, yeah, I was not worried about the Wolves offense tonight. As far as how they respond the rest of the week, look, I still hope Jeremy wins the week. He picked 2-1. I obviously I didn't pick 3-0, so I guess good job by me, but we'll see. Thanks, Tom. Sri, what's going on, Sri? I knew as soon as Cam Reddish appeared on the screen that we were going to lose that game. Oh my God, I didn't even forgot about that. I missed it in the moment. I know. I think the Knicks wall posted it. That was at like the end of the third quarter, right? Where they accidentally flashed a Cam Reddish graphic. The curse of Cam. It's official. Although, what's happened to Portland that's not Cam's fault, but Portland's kind of disintegrated down the stretch. Dom Cappuccini. Randall is all NBA case closed. I do think that this game probably gave him some juice. I don't know if he needed the juice, but I think it probably gave him some juice. And I do also want to say, and I mentioned this on the playback, and I'll mention it again. I do think it's, I don't know, notable is not the right word, but it is a thing that has happened that as of right now, with 9 games remaining in this season for the Knicks and for about 10 games for most teams, there is one player in the league that made the All-Star team this year, or that is anywhere near an All-Star level of player that has played every game. And that is Julius Randle, because Anthony Edwards missed the game tonight. And in this year where load management has been maybe not the top topic of conversation, but a significant topic of conversation, I would actually be shocked if the one guy who played all 82 and put up the numbers that Randall's put up for a Knicks team that's doing what it's doing. I would be shocked if he was left off All NBA. Especially since I do not think Brunson is going to make it. I think the guard position is just too stacked. It's too deep. It's essentially it's coming down to him or De'Aaron Fox, and I think Fox, I think Fox rightly deserves to make it over him. The Kings have been that good, and he's been that important to them. But yeah, Randall, I think it's actually going to be more of a conversation. Does Randall make second team? Which, again, talk about would be wild to make second team, second year, or twice in 3 years. Busy. This is fair. Let's all blame J-Mac for the reverse jinxing the Knicks, picking 1 and 2. I picked 1 and 2 instead of being a normal fan and picking 3-0. Bad job by you. Hashtag.
So sound it out.
BTCY. I don't know.
Be the change you want to see in the world.
There it is.
Yes.
So
it's your fault.
I mean it.
The Macri Mush. Can we get that hashtag going?
But it's not, because if they go 1 and 2, I win the week. So by definition, it can't be a mush because I win.
But you chose you winning over being an irrational fan and just picking 3-0.
So you're saying if I picked 3-0 that they would have won this game and they would have gone to, like, I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know.
We'll never know. The butterfly effect.
I appreciate what Busy's doing here. I get the spirit of it. I get the sentiment of it. I don't necessarily disagree with him, but like, this is not a mush because I win. I would win. I don't want to win. I hope I lose.
Well, almost there, John.
Oh, man. And for what it's worth, I'll say it right now, I would sign for 1-1 for these two games. I'll tell you that right now. I know that might sound crazy. And honestly, I'm not even sure I care which win they get. I get one of these. Dom Cappuccini, and that's a testament to Orlando, who continues to fight and play well down the stretch. Dom Cappuccini, I was divided on who to root for between the Cavs and Nets. I'm over the 4th seed officially. Smart man. Go sweep them this week, Spida. Good night all, on to spring break, back-to-back. I'm more worried about the Heat. Because you have put yourself in a position. We might as well do it. I just went through the Knicks schedule before. I might as well now go through the Miami Heat remaining schedule. Because they have games they certainly could lose. Obviously, they just lost to Chicago. And by the way, closer game than it should have been against Detroit. So other than the two Knicks games, here's what they have. They have Brooklyn. By the way, Miami only plays once this week. They're off today. They're off tomorrow. They play us on Wednesday. They're off Thursday. They're off Friday. Then they play Saturday. Then they have 2 more days off. So two more rest days, and then they go to Toronto and then here. So the Nets and the Raptors, you'd love to think that they would lose one of those games to Brooklyn or Toronto, and yet you think kind of Miami's better than both those teams. Toronto's been playing well. Then you come here to the Knicks to face the Knicks again, and here are Miami's final 5, excuse me. Dallas. At Detroit. Last 3. At Philly. The best thing is you figure Philly's going to be fighting. You have to figure Philly's going to be fighting for the top seed. That's what you have to root for, right? At this point for that game. At the Wizards, and then you close against the Magic. Other than that Philly game, and I would assume the game against New York in New York, the Heat are going to be favored in every other game. So that is why, like, they really, the Knicks really now have put themselves in a position with this loss. I really feel comfortable saying that. They have to win one of those Miami games, which, again, that should not be a problem. You should be able to win one of the last 2 against Miami. It's not going to be easy, Because I got news for you. Both of those games are going to be close games down the stretch in the last 5 minutes. And you're going to have to beat Jimmy Butler and be better than him. That's a. You want to talk about playoff preparation? That's playoff preparation. But then I guess, worst case scenario, maybe, hopefully the worst case scenario is the 6th seed. Kevin Danishevsky, what's going on, Kev? Bad loss to the Timberwolves and the hashtag we hear year 2. I remember that loss. That might have been the worst loss of that year. Because that was one of the few feel bad losses against the Wolves that year. I remember that game. I remember doing the post game for that game. That was not fun. Dom Cappuccini, still depressed. Wednesday can't come soon enough. Come on. It's okay. It's okay. Listen, this year's still been very good, almost regardless of what happens from here on in. I mean, if they fell out of the playoffs, it would be pretty bad. If they fell into the play-in, that would be rough. But I think you brought it up before, or somebody brought it up before. We kind of now do have to root for Cleveland in these next 2 games. Play Brooklyn Tuesday and Thursday. And we've been doing it, so we might as well do it for them too. Here's Brooklyn's remaining schedule: the Cleveland Tuesday and Thursday. They have a lot of games left, and then you got a back-to-back. They actually had to go on the exact same trip that we're going on Wednesday and Thursday, except they're going on it Saturday and Sunday at Miami, at Orlando. So I guess the good news is that either the Heat or the Nets have to lose that game. And then here's what they have in their last 7. Rockets at home. Hawks at home. Hawks are kind of free-falling, but Hawks could win that game. Jazz at home. Will the Jazz still be fighting? We don't know. Timberwolves at home. So that's a 4-game homestand for Brooklyn. At Detroit, Orlando, And then they close with the Sixers. I don't love the fact that they close with the Sixers because the last game of the season, you never know what's going to be wrapped up by then. You never know. Is Philly going to be fighting for anything? We're not sure. So, I think at this point, I mean, if they lose both to Cleveland, I'm going to be rooting for them against Miami, I think. Either way, I'm going to be rooting for them against Miami. Okay. Thanks, Tom. Ed Paolo, what's going on, Ed? Not a fan of Grimes being a first and third quarter player. Hart coming in mid-first and third to finish half of the game. Wolves were really hunting Brunson all game. RJ should have finished it. Yeah, I mean, I think the Grimes thing is a larger issue for me. It's more like, why has he become only a first and third quarter player? And I think the reason is because he's not making the level of impact that warrants him getting more minutes. So then you ask the question, okay, well, why is he not making more of an impact? And this goes back to the dude took 1 shot in 21 minutes. So why is he taking only 1 shot in 20 minutes? Well, I think, again, it's tough when you're in a starting lineup with Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, and RJ Barrett, 3 guys who are averaging more than 20, or RJ's right at 20. It's tough when you're in that, when you play essentially all of your minutes. Think about that. He plays all of his minutes with not 1, not 2, but 3 of those guys. It's tough to get your shots off. So then you're like, okay, well, how can he make his presence felt in other ways? You got to be outstanding on defense. He was not outstanding on defense tonight. And that's basically it, because of how, what their offense looks like when he's not. It's a tough spot. I'm completely in agreement. It's a tough spot, but can I sit here and be like, he should have played more minutes? But then again, that's not what you're saying. You're just like, you're not a fan of this is what he's become. I think that's fair. Not necessarily a fan of it either. It's, it's rarely going to be perfect, and that's one of their imperfections for sure. Lamar Jordan, what's going on, Lamar? Can we find a way to get Grimes more than 1 shot? Perfect timing on that one. Also, RJ getting only 8 shots is kind of wild. I mean, is it though? RJ, I actually praised RJ this morning in today's newsletter for having a game where so he's had, I think it's 11 games this year where he had at least a 60 effective field goal percentage. And the game, referring to the Nuggets game. The Nuggets game, of those 11, and the Nuggets game was one of them, was his second lowest usage rate. And I said that to praise him because I'm like, in a lot of games where RJ's shooting it well, you do feel like there are times where maybe he, commandeers the offense a little bit too much. And it starts to revert back into the other direction. And now 8 shots is not 13 shots. That's what we took against Denver tonight. It's only 8. But then the other part of that, and this also goes to the Grimes getting 1 shot thing. Julius Randle again, I've been watching basketball for 30 years. Julius Randle had the best offensive quarter I've ever seen. And he wasn't missing. And normally in that quarter like that, you would get a few more RJ shots in that third quarter. You might get a couple more Grimes shots in that third quarter. I understand that's one quarter we're talking about, but I think that's part of the reason, for that. Hat tip to Andrew for reminding me that Julius Randle went in demigod mode. It's fun. It's crazy. We this post game's been about a lot of stuff, not really Julius Randle, which I guess I'm not shocked, but it is interesting that the guy had the third most points in Knicks history, and we're kind of hardly talking about him. Yeah. Sam Garcia, what's going on, Sam? Good to hear from you. It's a shame they wasted that Randle performance. Yes. Completely agree. Danny Gardner, what's going on, Danny? Again, for the record, I thought leaving IQ in was the right move. He was just terrible down the stretch. Disappointing, but it doesn't change anything. Yeah, like on the list of things, like I'm not going to be worried about. IQ, like being good in close games, that's not one of them. And yeah, thanks, Danny. Isaac Dueck. I've gotten that name before. I hope I pronounce it correctly. Why isn't McNutt doing color? Wally's terrible. McNutt is top notch. McNutt is an all-star. Wally is a wannabe. I love McNutt. Do you? Hashtag Harlow for 3. This is a strange comment in a game that Wally Zerbiak did not call. I love Monica McNutt. She's a friend of the pod, and I am honored that she considers herself a friend of the pod. I would love for her to get an opportunity to do color. That's about it that I have to say about that. Strange comment tonight, though. Busy, what's going on, Busy? Serious note, hard to game plan for a team when they're without their star and you don't know how they play because he never misses games. Your game plan kind of goes out the window. That and the hot shooting, and that's the ball game. Yeah, like, look, again, any loss, there's always going to be Monday morning quarterbacking and things you say could have done this differently and that differently, and especially hindsight's 2020, as we just talked about with Quickly. Quickly had a terrible game down the stretch. It happens. At the end of the day, you do kind of have to tip your cap a little bit to some extent. Not saying the intensity was where it needed to be. I just had deja vu. How wild is that? Not saying the intensity was where it needed to be out of the gate, but it's okay to tip your cap. It's okay. Busy with another one. I still like what I see from this team. On to Miami. Yeah, I don't know how you don't like what you see from this team. Like, I think what you have to look for at this point in the season, this is just me. I'm like, what are the things that they do or don't do that I feel like we know are an unsolvable problem that will not get better and that an opposing team is going to take advantage of? A smart opposing team is going to take advantage of. And I don't think, like, we know that there are things that fluctuate, right? Obviously, I don't have to go through all the things that fluctuate with this team, including the head coach and the head coach's decision-making. And, like, sometimes he does things and makes decisions where you're like, that's not great, Tibbs. But much like I think Tibbs overall has done a very good job this year, overall, all of the players and the way they work together and the way that this team plays as a whole, overall, you have a lot of confidence, and I don't feel like there is any one thing where I'm like, man, that thing is just sitting out there. It really worries me. Yeah, I don't think there is that one thing. I mean, it's like down the stretch of a tight game, if they don't feel good about taking threes, their offense could be stymied if you have a big time rim protector and a guy like Gobert or Embiid or even a Jared Allen or an Evan Mobley. So like, yeah, but even that, it's like, I don't know. I'm not too worried about that. So I still feel good about this team, but the thing and the reason I think I always push back against, shout out Robert Cross, the Eastern Conference Finals stuff and this and that is like, no, there is nothing out there where I'm like, man, that thing really worries me. And at the same time, and this is true of I think every team in the league other than maybe Milwaukee and Philly, the way they're playing, like this team could lose any night, But again, that's true of 27 other teams. Like, and the Bucks could lose on any given night, and Philly could lose on any given night. Philly doesn't really lose very much lately, although I think did they lose tonight? Yeah, they lost tonight to the Bulls in double overtime. So there you go. So it could happen to anybody on any given night, But like, just that's the NBA in 2023. So yeah, thanks, Busy. Sam Garcia's. Oh, come on, you guys are way too much. Seriously, you guys are way too much. Sam Garcia's dad. Watch the game with Sam Garcia's mom, aka Madre. Wanted this one for Julius. I want to take this opportunity to say the KFS and this community you fostered is incredible. You make the W's better and the losses more bearable. You guys are the best. Cheers. Thank you. Can I say your name? I'm gonna say your name. Ray. Thank you, Ray. And thank you to the whole Garcia clan. I appreciate what you have added to the KFS community, the entire Garcia family. It has made this season. Again, there are things that there's specific things that I remember from like the We Here season doing post games and stuff. I think 10, 20, 30 years from now, I'm going to be like, oh yeah, that year. I don't know what we're going to refer to this year as, but like, that year, I'm going to be like, remember all those Garcia post games? Yeah, post game chat. That's what I'm thinking about. Silk Sutton with another one. Hi, John. Josh Hart said that before the game, he saw we weren't ready. I appreciate you clarifying. Yeah. You don't love it. But at least he's being honest. I appreciate the honesty. Sean, what's going on, Sean? How are you, buddy? No blame, but Tibbs not challenging the offensive foul by McDaniel on Jalen Brunson was key. Dan Emanuel quickly fouls Mike on a three. Hits 3 free throws. New York down 1. Never leads again. Maybe I'm getting my Andrew pop up here for a second because
what's up?
Confused. The Jalen Brunson, the offensive foul push off. Wasn't that on the last possession, or was there another one?
So there's a second one that was on baseline, and when we saw it on the playback, Benji and I both commented like you could challenge that. Look, the challenge stuff, I struggle because there are things it was about 2.5 left. There's a baseline call where Brunson tries to draw a charge. I thought he impeded the progress, and I thought it gets iffy whether or not you could have called a foul. Although McDaniels, to Sean's point, does push off.
Oh, that play. I commented on that in the moment.
So that was you so you and I both commented on it in the moment.
Yeah, yes. And was it no call or did they call a foul?
They called it a foul. So that they called it a foul on Brunson. They called it a block. So here's where I am. Every coach has a video team behind the bench. They then turn on every potential challenge and get a green light of whether to challenge or not. The coach
they don't even
at
watch
the liberty of what the video team says. He's actually been very good lately of, okay, my video team says to challenge, I will challenge.
For the one late in the game, which I guess, can you challenge it?
You can't challenge a call if it's not made. So there was a blatant
so you can't challenge. I was about
to
say, you can't challenge that one. Should he have challenged the earlier one? I personally, Sean, I don't.
if you don't get it, you have one timeout with
Yeah,
2:17
I
left, and
think
you're
the
in the
timeout
same
is too.
spot where you're up 2, protecting.
I,
Like,
yeah, I
what if
think the
there's an out of
timeouts.
bounds call that
Yeah,
is blatant and you need your challenge?
I think the timeout is too valuable there. The other call that I didn't agree with, I didn't think, and again, would it have mattered? But like when they overturned the foul on whoever it was on Quickly. I mean, I that's why I mean, like, the NBA in a weird way, like, their review process seems to be a little different from football. Football, it's like you need clear and convincing evidence, and God knows football's gotten into a lot of problems with that, but they stick by it, I think,
Mm-hmm.
for the most part. Basketball, there's a lot of play. I'm not just talking about the Knicks. I just like watching games, every night. It feels like there's a lot of times where I'm like, man, they overturned that, but I don't know. So
To
maybe
Sean's general comment, though, this was the portion of the game where I thought, like, the quickly foul to me is the portion that I thought was the key. The play of the game, the key moment of the game was him fouling Conley on the 3, because, like he said, they never led after that. Now, look, could he have challenged? Could the video team have said, Tibbs, challenge this one, and you see what happens? Sure. But also, like,
losing the time out there.
don't foul on a 3. Like, I get it. Gobert set an elite screen, and Conley's a savvy veteran that might have forced it. But I'm more upset at the foul than the foul on Quickly than the one on Brunson that could have been reversed.
I thought, for my 2 cents, I know the Connolly free throws gave them the lead. The next possession, I thought Brunson got a good look. And although, as Benji commented on, it seemed like they overcomplicated things. Like, Mitch was there, and it's like they made it maybe a tougher shot than it needed to be. Still, he makes that shot. He didn't make it this time. And then I thought the Prince 3 after that was the backbreaker, because then it's like, oh my God, we're all of a sudden we're down 4. And then Randall loses the ball, and it not only he lost the ball and then fouled McDaniels in the same instant, same play. McDaniels sinks both free throws. Oh, now you're down 6.
Yeah, so I agree. And that's what I'm just simply saying, the momentum turn was the Quickly foul on the 3. And then you're right, the backbreaker were the next 2 possessions. And to your point about because I know someone mentioned, why didn't Mitch get back in the game? Why didn't Mitch close? The Knicks strategy down the stretch should have been to get Gobert as far away from the rim as possible. And we commented at certain times in the first half on playback that when you beat your man, but Mitch is in the dunker spot, you're bringing arguably the best rim protector in the NBA, just sitting there.
I misspoke a moment ago. It was Hartenstein that was getting involved in the action, not Mitch. Because Mitch.
So Hartenstein, the beauty of having him on the floor in the second half, I noticed it a few times where he's not camping out in the corner, but he's not in the dunker spot. So he's, 15 feet away, and you can, get to the rim a little more. The one that Brunson did hit, which is a step back on Conley, but it was clear that they were kind of, Gobert was playing off. He would have helped if he could have, and unfortunately, it didn't work as well.
Yeah, and like, I don't want to make this into a Hartenstein versus Mitch thing, but like, Hartenstein is like, I don't think it's out of turn to say he's the savvier player. There is a part of me that does feel a little bit safer with him on the floor, although you do feel like, you're giving up the offensive. I mean, he gets a fair share of his offensive rebounds as well. Are you giving up too much rim protection? I mean, that's the question. I think that's where it really comes down to. Hartenstein played 20 minutes at 3 assists. Again, scoring wasn't the issue in this game, but like, he does things that just Mitch doesn't do. I don't know. It's a tough call.
Yeah, I'll stay.
You want to stay on for the rest?
Yeah, let's do it.
Alex, will we ever see a good defensive game from Grimes again? Yes, we will. He's again. This has been, and I think this has been an adjustment for Grimes. We always talk about RJ's role gets adjusted, right? I think this has been an adjustment for Grimes. Also, second-year player, development's not linear, So I'm not worried about Grimes one bit. I think he's gonna be fine. Kevin Danishevsky, I was more shocked, appalled after the Dallas game than frustrated. Okay, so now we're talking semantics here.
I was all of the above, Kevin.
Any negative emotion a person could have, I had it after the Dallas game. Ed Paolo, what's going on again, Ed? Also, Tibbs has to challenge the offensive foul call on RJ. Such a bad call and killed momentum.
This was in the third quarter.
Yeah, I mean,
killed momentum. Julius Randle scored 26 points. He got the momentum back. I think this is the play you're talking about because RJ didn't have.
Even if it was in the fourth, I look. Is it possible that a play could be big enough momentum wise to warrant a challenge? I don't actually. Wait a minute. So yeah. So what would they have done? They would have overturned it and then called. Because
basket was good, so they would have. If they overturn it, then basket's good.
Oh, okay. Well, then maybe. I don't know. I'd have to see the replay. I in the moment, I don't think I thought it was an egregious call. I also don't remember looking very carefully at the replay, so it could have been a bad call.
I struggle with the challenges because, like, if there's an egregious, you need to guarantee that it's gonna work. If it's gonna lead to 2 points, like obviously you do that. The judgment calls on the foul are risky for me, at least. Yeah, personally.
Hush, what's going on, Hush? Again, I know people were not missing, but I wish Tibbs took a page from the Clippers and went 5 out. I feel like it could have went different with Randall so hot. Yeah, I think you want with Randall going like that. It's just more of an incentive to go more defense, not less defense, especially with Gobert in the game. So unless you're saying go 5 out when they go to Reed, but again, there's a subtle little part that this is so far afoul of anything that's really relevant at this point. But like, I think if Tibbs had more faith in Obi, they might do that more. But the fact is that why does Tibbs not have ultimate faith in Obi Toppin is because Obi Toppin does things like miss box out sometimes. And, it's like there is something there, which is partially why it's like you do feel like you're losing something by going small. And what are you gaining? That's the key. If Randall's doing what he's doing, do you need to go 5 out? So it's tough. You put up 134 points tonight. Thanks, Osh. Kevin with another one. Kings about to lose to the tanking Jazz. Typical 2023. After everybody's been blowing smoke up the Kings' butts all for a while now.
The game's final, by the way. The Kings lost to the tanking Jazz, who sat Jordan Clarkson, sat Lauri Markkanen. Yeah.
And we should also say the Mavs lost.
That's the spin zone tonight, by the way. You want to talk about this being a positive? Now the Kings are it's not the Kings, the Timberwolves are now just a half game behind Dallas. So if you're rooting for the Dallas pick to be as good as possible, the spin zone is that this helped the Timberwolves gain ground on Dallas.
With Irving in what I just saw from a few tweets that popped up on my thing, a precautionary walking boot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So there, you're welcome, people who want to see the Dallas pick be as good as possible.
I mean, the Mavs, granted, have, I think, a fairly easy schedule down the stretch, but they have 10 games left, and they're a 500 team.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, what are we? We're 11 games over?
Yes. What's the latest on Luka?
I don't know.
Yeah, so shrug is the latest.
They go into Golden State on Wednesday. Golden State does win at home. And then they have a back-to-back against the Hornets. The Hornets put up a feisty effort tonight, I think, against, I forget who they played, but I think they were either up by a bunch or down by a bunch. I don't know. And then but that ended up being a close game. And then Dallas has a 5-game East Coast road trip at Charlotte, at Indiana, at Philly, at Miami. Talk about a game we'll be watching closely, at Atlanta, and then they finish with Kings at home, Bulls at home. Bulls could be fighting for a lot in that game, and then they finish, unfortunately, with the Spurs.
Last one.
Ed Paula. It's not always about winning, losing challenges. It also shows you're supporting, defending your players. For sure. I don't know if that was I completely agree with you, and I think it wasn't a challenge, but I thought Tibbs getting a tech on when Gordon drove on RJ, and RJ played really tough defense on Gordon, and it could have been called a travel on Gordon. It could have been called an offensive foul on Gordon. Tibbs got a technical foul after that. I thought that was kind of in that spirit. I don't know if in that moment it felt like, because that's something you do when you feel like your player is really getting railroaded, and I didn't. I don't know. Again, we'll agree to disagree there. I understand where you're coming from. I just don't see it the same way, Ed.
So that foul happened with 6:04 left in the third quarter. The Knicks were down. If it goes in, the Knicks are down 97-92, and then he's got a free throw.
Down 97-92?
Yes, they'd have been down. They were down 97-90 when this happened. So after that happened, the Knicks then went on a 18-12 run to be down one, and most of it was Julius Randle. I get wanting to support your player. I don't remember the play sticking out as much that it was like, oh, that should have been an offense. That should have been a defensive foul. Call it so that way you can show support for RJ. I'd rather save my challenge for a very clear and definitive chance to get a possession, chance to get a bucket later in the game, or just in general, a clear and definitive possession. And look, if we see on the film later, then Ed Paula was right. That's the hashtag for tonight.
Yeah, I just saw Bobby Marks tweeted out, so I just went to take a look. 6 through 12 in the West.
Yeah,
that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams separated by 2 games. So the same distance between 5 and 6 in the East is the distance between 6 and being out of the play-in in the West.
By the way, Wally was doing color tonight on the radio.
Oh, on the radio. Okay.
Yeah. Also, Sean was in attendance in the building tonight.
Oh, cool.
He's in the chat letting people know. And I'll just respond to one thing. He said that he paid attention to the bench when that Brunson foul happened to see if Tibbs turned to the video team. What I've actually noticed, and this is where Johnny Bryant taking more of a hands-on role has come into play. He'll actually go get Tibbs' attention if the video team is like, go. Now, if it's blatant and he wants to check, Tibbs will do it. But this is where Bryant will usually come in handy and, as the assistant coach, say, like, hey, you might want to take a look at this. So, yeah. Challenges to me are a coaching staff decision because of, like, Tibbs isn't sitting there with an iPad,
Yes, agreed.
I also don't know what he would do with an iPad.
I don't think he would know what to do with it.
Right.
Last thing I'll say, and then we'll get out of here. And it was funny because Dom, shout out Dom Cappuccini. He reached out to me afterwards because he made a comment in the last post game about like coasting down the stretch, and I kind of pushed back on it. And he reached out to me to clarify. He's like, I didn't mean coast like coast. It's just like after that, it feels like we'll be able, like we don't have to play like every game where it's like, oh my God, our lives depend on their ability to win this game. After tonight, I feel comfortable being like, the Knicks have to keep their foot on the gas all the way through here from here on in, and they will have to win. They will have to win some games. And I will say it again. I do not think they're getting the 5th seed if they don't beat Miami one of those 2 times. If they beat Miami one of those 2 times, they will get the 5th seed. If they do not beat Miami either one of those 2 times, I do not think they will get the 5th seed.
Who do you think passes them?
Miami.
So you have Miami potentially going.
If Miami beats us those last 2 games, which again, I'm not saying they will do. I'm not saying I think they'll do. I'm just saying if. I think Miami passes them. Yeah, because I looking at Miami's schedule down the stretch, and they have not earned this positivity from me. They have not earned it with their level of play because they have not played well. And this is me not being able to quit heat culture. # heat culture. Can't quit it.
They almost lost to Detroit yesterday.
I know. I watched the game. I was watching the game. I had the game on. We were recording the pod. Detroit was winning like 3 or 4 minutes left in the game. They
did lose to Chicago on a back-to-back, and Chicago had just played 2 overtimes the other night.
Yeah, and Miami went down 27 points to that Chicago team. They also nearly came back. This Miami team is not a great team, but they find themselves game after game after game in tight games down the stretch. And looking at their schedule here, I think the Knicks need to win one of those 2 games. That's all I'm saying. I think the Knicks need to win one of those 2 games.
I think I'd feel much better if they would one of those 2 games. I'd be more concerned about like And if they lose on Wednesday, this is now 2 in a row. Then you have a back-to-back in Orlando. That's now 3 in a
That's
row.
exactly.
That's
yeah.
but like has nothing to do with the Miami Heat and more to do with the New York Knicks.
Fair. That's fair.
Like
But
in your scenario, the Heat are winning how many games this season? So they go 7 and
my
3
argument
the
is
rest of
that
the season?
if they take both against us, they have 9 games left, right?
Yeah, so they'd have to go 7
games
and 2.
not against the Knicks.
Yes.
Other than their game, I think it's in Philly, right? The game's in Philly.
In Philly. And
Other than that game,
home against Dallas, but like you said, that's
other than the Philly game, they should be favored in every other game other than the game at New York, which again, we're putting the 2 New York games aside. We're just looking at their other 7 games. In those other 7, other than the Philly game, they will be favored in every other one of those games. So are they going to win all 7? Or sorry, are they going to win all 6? Again, put the Philly game aside. No, but can they go 5-2? Certainly they could go 5-2. So if they go 5-2 and you play this out, if we lose both of those Miami games, they go 5-2 and we go 4-3 in our other 7 games, they pass us on the tiebreaker. So then you look at the rest of the Knicks schedule and you say, okay, can the Knicks lose 3 more games? And I could find 3 more losses on the Knicks schedule from here on in. You just mentioned Orlando on the second half of a back-to-back. The Cleveland game in Cleveland is not going to be easy. So then, again, that's 2. And then it's like you face the Pacers twice. You're going to beat the Pacers if they're still fighting for the plan? You should win both of those games, for sure.
So the scenario you're painting is that the Heat win 46 games, the Knicks win 46 games.
I haven't added it up, but I guess
that's what but the Knicks get 4 more wins is what you're saying. The whole rest of the season, they're going to win 4 more games.
That would be the scenario that I'm painting. And that's if the Heat go 5-2. Do the Heat have it in them to go?
No. 7-2, because the 2 wins would have to be against the Knicks. So a team that's hovered around 500 this season will go 7-2.
And my pushback is like, I think the Heat have it in them to go 7-2 down the stretch.
And that's where my pushback is. They just have not showed us that they can.
And
again, they lost to the Bulls the other night.
And the other part of this is, again, just focusing on the Knicks. Like those last 4. Like, do you really want the Knicks to be in a position where they have to go 4-0 in the last 4 games?
I don't think they. So this is we're now just in circles. I don't think they're going to need to go 4-0 in those last 4 games.
Okay, and we'll make the circle around one last time. If they lose both of those 2 games to the Heat, which again, 2 of their next 4 games are against Miami. If they lose both of those, and then, you brought it up a second ago. That Rockets game becomes, or sorry, not the Rockets game, the Magic game. And then they lose to Cleveland. Even if they win the Magic game, and they beat the Rocket game, and they lose to Miami again, and they lose to Cleveland, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then that puts them in a position where, at that point, what did I say? 4-3 doesn't get it, so they have to go 5-2. They would have lost to Cleveland, so then they could afford one more loss.
One more loss, yeah.
So then, okay, so then that gives you a little cushion. And again, in this scenario, if you're losing twice to Miami, you're beating both Orlando and Houston. If you lose Cleveland, but they could beat Cleveland too. I don't know. We're talking around circles.
So New York Knicks, whoever's watching tonight, please put John's PTSD at ease. Win one of these games against the Miami Heat, please and thank you.
And last thing. After the year that they've had, do you really feel like it would be poetic justice for them to not have to win one more big game, potentially with their backs feeling against the wall? I think that would be fitting to have to win one more big game. And that's more where the impetus for me is coming from.
Okay. I'm very confident in this team. That's the thing they've given me now is that there's the 5th seed is within reach. The 5th seed is like a foregone conclusion, and they will end up with like 47, 48 wins, and we'll be talking about Donovan Mitchell for a week.
I agree with you completely. And at the same time, this is a league where the Denver Nuggets, who steamrolled everybody for 4 months, are suddenly having a crisis of confidence, and a league in which the Boston Celtics, who played a calendar year, putting up a net rating the likes of which we haven't seen since like the KD Warriors, all of a sudden are a 500 team for over a month.
Knicks are better coach than those teams, John.
What's that?
Knicks are better coach than those teams, John.
So my point is that it doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter how good your system is, how like secure you know what you want to do at both ends of the floor, the whole thing. I mean, Jesus, the freaking defending world champion Warriors are putting together one of the strangest seasons in terms of the road versus the home, and they were like, okay, we're mean business now a week ago, and what do? They went and lost 3 straight road games that they were against teams they should, 2 of them against teams they should have won. So it's like, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how much, like you're saying, I have confidence in this team. I have confidence in this team too. But again, I'll borrow from Mark Stein, #this league. Like, you can lose any night, and just like the Knicks did tonight.
I'd be surprised if any person in Miami has the confidence you do that the Heat will go 7-2 down the stretch.
Okay,
this is just from talking to some people and listening. This is my Levitard show obsession. Like, this is the Miami Heat team headed for 43 wins.
Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo
have been on the team all season.
I understand. Eric Spoelstra. Sorry. If those 3 guys are there, I'm not counting them out of any game. That's all.
Okay, fair.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate everybody watching the whole way through. We don't have any more super chats, right?
Nope.
We will be back for. Do we want to say what's tomorrow night, or we're dropping that?
2 things. Yeah. First of all, an episode of Dream Draft Rules Everything Around Me with Chris Persianen will be live on Tuesday night at 7 p.m. here on all live platforms, Facebook Live, Twitter Live, and of course here on the KFS YouTube channel. The NCAA tournament is going on right now, so if you have tournament questions, draft questions, please bring them. Chris will answer as many as he possibly can in the time that he is live. And then we will have a tournament that we've already recorded and we'll release Wednesday morning for you. John, Jeremy, and I did the Knicks One Shining Moment bracket, where we decide of the last 25 years, what is the one shining moment that the Knicks have had above all else. Spoiler alert, Julius Randle's 57-point game would have made this tournament, even though it was during a loss. Although in hindsight, it would have been a lower seed, but I digress. His shot against Miami is part of this tournament. See how far it goes. That'll drop Wednesday morning. And then the homie, Giancarlo Navas, makes his return to the Knicks Film School pregame pod. It's going to be a 2-parter also. Jonathan Zaslow he's a South Florida radio legend. He's also now part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network, and both of them are going to join me for this in 2 separate parts of the pregame pod. So plenty of content dropping over the next couple days.
I also just want to point out one last thing, and I think this is we've talked around this in several different ways, but I think it does bear repeating. And again, shout out to Benji. He always manages to nail an entire game down in one tweet, 280 characters or less. His grades: Randle got an A+. Not a single other player got above a B. And I don't think he was wrong. I don't think anyone else deserved a B. And think about how many games have the Knicks played where you only had one player that really stood out in a big-time, significant, positive way. Usually there's at least 2, and usually more than 2 guys. Usually there's 3 or 4 where, again, I feel like a broken record. So many times I'm like, how the hell am I going to figure out the stars of the game for this game tonight? I haven't done this in a while, but I think I might just go ahead and I think this one deserves all 6.
Shout out Julius Randle.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. Yeah. Thank you everybody again for watching. We'll be back with more fun and games again. Chris, make sure you check him out tomorrow or on Tuesday night. And then Wednesday, big game, baby.
Got that right. Jeez.
All right. Later.